at any time to ask questions. So today, what I'm going to be covering is presented. Just a reminder that we are recording. So if there's any issues or concerns, please let me know. Otherwise, a recording will be provided to everyone within the week after the session as well. So I'm going to cover off a few things. I asked people to provide input into what it is exactly that they were keen to get out of this. When I've run sessions on Microsoft Teams for other organizations, typically I find that people are real beginners or they're sort of more in the mid range. And so I just want to make sure that we tailor today to suit where you are in terms of the sort of the level of proficiency that you have in it. And look, there might be some things today that you pick up on that are new to you. And there might be some things today that you know. So I will go through quite a lot, and we will be not only going through some generic theory slides, but I'm going to take you into our sites as well and show you how things are set up to give you an opportunity to kind of see how that works. Just in terms of why I'm able to do this session today, I've been using Microsoft Teams since I think it came out. I think it was like 2007, it might have been. I could have that date wrong. Microsoft Teams started really basically for like document sharing and was heavily tied to its Microsoft SharePoint product, but it's evolved a lot. And in more recent years, it's now become a total collaboration tool. Where I'm going to take you through today will cover practical experience and how we're using it, not only internally within our business, but also with corporate clients. So to give you an example, I've used Microsoft Teams single-handedly, obviously with Microsoft Teams and Microsoft SharePoint in the back, completely for $30 million programs of work, and that's it. I haven't used it for people. Sometimes companies don't have a project portfolio tool. Sometimes they don't have all the luxurious apps and things. So I'm going to take you through exactly how we work with it. I'm going to tell you where companies are getting it wrong. I'm going to talk to you about how we set it up for project management, understanding that this is not a replacement for a PPM if you've got that in your business, but it is the collaboration side of it, which you typically don't see in those tools. I'm going to talk to you about the collaboration features, show you how the managing of tasks and projects takes place, and then also give you some tips around how to enhance communication engagement. And I'll also share with you all of this information, which I've also compiled into an ebook that I will talk to you about a little bit later. So any questions, please put them into the chat and I will try to get to them as we go through as well. So you're here for one of probably 4 reasons. So if you could have a look and let me know, are you here because of A, you have Microsoft Teams and just want to learn to use it more effectively? B, you're more advanced in Microsoft Teams, so hoping to capture something more new or different that you didn't know? C, you're looking to bring in Microsoft Teams to your team or your business, so you want to know how it works, or you're not sure yet. So please let me know so that I can make sure I'm not going too entry level and too senior. Okay, so far we're in B's. Anyone else for A, C, or D? If not, the B's are going to have it. So let me know where you are placed. So at the moment, from where I can see, we're looking at more advanced in the use, and so for wanting to capture something new and different. Okay, great. All right, let's continue on. So first of all, what are companies getting wrong? And the reason I wanted to do this session today was primarily because the amount of companies, particularly since running my business for the last 8 years, that use Microsoft Teams, it's literally every single customer that I've worked with in the last 8 years. It's been about 25 companies. Now, does that mean they all use it the same way? No. Does that mean they are effectively using it? Absolutely not. There are companies that are so underutilizing Microsoft Teams that it actually is a waste of money, really, because they're paying all these licensing fees and they're not using it to its full potential. And there's different ways that companies are setting it up. So depending on the company, and it's not by size, so some really large corporate companies have really restricted Microsoft Teams down so much so that you can't do anything. And I know that because in our small business of 10 people, we have a lot more freedom in what you can and can't do. And that's partially because we're small, we can control it that way. And then there's other companies that have left it wide open. So for example, in one of the big four banks, they've completely opened up people setting up their own team channels. And so there is thousands of them. Now, is that the smartest thing? Maybe not. But then I worked with a utilities company last year that just to get a team set up, you have to go log an IT request and wait for them to. So it's like, you know, chalk and cheese in terms of how these companies are working. The biggest challenge when introducing Microsoft Teams is people assume that everybody knows how to use it. So there's training and onboarding is typically not there. And look, there's plenty of free training and onboarding available online. So you don't have to pay for it. You can just find it online. Microsoft has great training on their website. Governance and security. So there's a lot of governance and security things in the background, which is probably why IT departments restrict it. I'll get to a little bit more about that as well. Some people get overwhelmed with the number of notifications and they don't know that you can actually switch them off or personalize the notifications you do receive. So that's something as a business owner, I can set for my teams. And in larger businesses, when you set up a team, you can also set those notifications. Inconsistent use. There is a school of thought that, and I'm from a project management office background, so I love consistency. There is schools of thought that if things are consistent in the way that they are run, particularly, let's say, in the project space or by department, and I'll show you what we've done in that space, then you're going to have a lot of easier time when you have project managers moving from team to team and supporting different projects, because it's going to be a lot easier to manage that way. Lack of adoption of features, I'll talk to you a bit about that, and just collaboration challenges and gaps as well. So yeah, these are some of the most common things that I see. If there's anything there that surprises you or anything I haven't mentioned, please feel free to put it into the chat. Otherwise, I'll keep moving because we've got so much to get through. And as I said, for those that just joined, we will record this. So I'm going to take you through now how to set it up for success, how to create channels, organize teams, customize settings, and make it suit your specific requirements. So there is two ways of setting up a new team, and I don't think most people know this. Some of you might, but as I said, there is some restrictions to how you can do this based on the IT department within your company. The smaller company, it's a little bit easier to do, but there is two ways. And sometimes people will go into Teams and they will just set up, and I'll just show you. I'm going to demo, keep flipping screens and demoing. Can everyone see the Teams screen? Thumbs up or a nod? Okay, perfect. So look, really simply, you probably all know this. You click this button and you click create a team, and then you go in and you give your team a name and you choose the type of team that it's going to be. Now, if you're in a company that's restricted that, you won't be able to do it, but at least when you go to talk to IT, you can kind of say, hey, we've got this idea we want to do so and so. Now, that's the easiest way. But what happens, because Microsoft Teams is connected to Microsoft SharePoint, which sits at the back end, and it's the original document storage, king. If you set it up directly in Teams, it doesn't give you all the features that it does if you set it up in the background. And I'll just show you what I mean. Just going to pull that up now. Just pull this screen over. So you can see that I'm now in SharePoint. As I said, whether you see SharePoint in your business or not, it is behind every single Teams instance. There was almost every company I worked with over the last 8 years, I'd say maybe 70% didn't even talk about SharePoint anymore. They just started ignoring it. But I worked at a large government organization last year, and they used SharePoint for everything. And it was so effective in the way that we set it up that we were able to run a $30 million program end to end completely through SharePoint and Teams. And I'll talk to you a bit about that in a sec. So this is the second way to create a Teams channel and site. Basically, creating a site, and you can see over here, it gives you the option of creating a team site. It not only gives you the opportunity to pick from templates, so some companies like to use those, or you can pick a template you might have existing in your organization. For example, if you were to set up a project team site, every project that starts can use that template. That's where you would save those. But doing it this way, what this enables, I'm not going to save that. I'll just show you a quick example. So it enables you to have, this is the back end of SharePoint and Teams. But if you have a look and you see, if I click on documents, everything in documents, everything in conversations, and everything in the calendar. Oh, I'm going to go back. And everything in the documents, everything in the conversations, etc., is all in the team site. And I'll just show you that again. So I just went to our main AMO site. If I click on that, just down here, and I'll just expand that. So you'll see at the top, all of those files, those documents are pretty much mirror image exactly what you see in Teams here, right? So it's a mirror image, but by setting up a team site the way that I was showing you up here, you miss out on some of the functionality that you get in SharePoint. And I'm going to show you a bit more about SharePoint in just a second. So just let me minimize that and go back to, so just to add one more tip on this one as well, you can see that on the left-hand side down here, we've got a client called Aarhus University. We've created team sites specifically with their project ID number at the front, so everybody knows that project and that team site is everything to do with that. Whereas on the right-hand side, we've set up a team site, not in Microsoft Teams, but in SharePoint, and I'm going to show you that in a second, that enables us to use it almost like its own intranet. And we've done that for marketing as one of our departments, but we've done it for every department. So I'm going to show you an example of that now. Just pull that back up. Okay, so this is our intranet, which we've set up using SharePoint. And you'll see that there's a range of things in there, but all of our tasks, so all of our Microsoft Teams task planners are linked on this page. You can see we've got our calendar and we've got all of these functions. So this is a business view, but if you were running it for a program, you could set it up a little bit differently as well. I'm going to take you through our marketing function. And this could be, if you're in a small or medium business, this might be your marketing department. So this is our marketing function. We've got our races, we've got our brand, we've got our brand Bible, we've got logos, we've got our FAQs, we've got our templates, our calendars embedded over here. Everything you see here, the calendar, this planner task link over here, as well as all of the conversations, notebook, and files are all exactly the same. If I go back to here and I'll show you our marketing, basically the same here. So all of these marketing conversations are the same as what you'd see in SharePoint. The files are the same. The planner for the tasks are the same. And our calendar is the same. And the notebook is the same. But if you think about it, when someone's actually using this view, it's not as pleasant as this view. This view is, if you have a program, you could have this as your program or your project site. So it's a really cool way of linking all of those sites together. Okay, I'm going to go back now. Sorry for the back and forth, but I just feel it's more useful than just talking generic stuff. So we've talked a little bit about that. You probably already know private, public, org-wide. When you make a team site private, you can't unprivate it. So just be aware of that. You'll actually have to start a new team site. And so that's one thing. You can't change it back to public. Now, when we set up a project, as I mentioned, there is an ability to set up a template, and you can actually create a template. And there's a picture over here that shows you a range of existing templates. There is a project one as well in Microsoft Teams that you can use to create your team site. And you can set up your own templates to do that. But in this example, what we basically have done is down on the right-hand side, this is the default setting, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that we have at the top of our team sites. So general is always there. It's just part of Teams. The posts are pretty much the conversations, the chatter, all of that. Files is directly linked to SharePoint and Microsoft OneDrive, which is where your files sit. The planner is basically our task list for our projects and our tracking. And then the notebook is effectively our digital notebook that we track all activities related to a project. And I'm happy to quickly show you an example of that for a project. So if I just go back to, so as I was saying, the posts are the same. All the files are in the same, and the planner, which is your project planner, is again all there listed, and I'll go through how we set that up in a minute. and then obviously your notebook as well, which we use for all of our digital note taking. At the moment, this one is brand new added. And I just want to show you for Planner, when you add, so the way I've added these, they're not default, is you click this little button and you can actually search for the apps. Now, depending on how restricted your company is in settings, you may not actually have the ability to add things. But for example, if I wanted to add the channel calendar for this project, I can add it, give it a name, I can click save, and then anyone accessing that project knows what are the project activities coming up. Now, one thing I will say is if you use this to set up a calendar invitation and you want to add people in your company, you can only make the changes to the meeting invite in Teams. So you won't be able to go to your Outlook, even though this saves in your mail if it's Outlook. You'll have to come into the calendar and make that change. So that's something that gets people unstuck when they set up all these recurring changed meetings and then realize, oh, I have to go back into the Teams channel to set it to make that change. Please let me know if there's questions along the way. I am moving fast. There's a lot to cover, but if you want me to slow down or cover anything more, let me know. Otherwise, if you're happy with the way things are going, just give me a thumbs up emoji or a smiley face. And if you're not happy, just give me a thumbs down so I can change course now before we can continue.
Okay, Fatima, I was just going to ask a quick question.
Sure.
Is Teams integrated with Enterprise Project?
Sorry, I'm going to put the volume up. Could you repeat that, please, Kathleen?
Is Teams integrated with Project?
Microsoft Project?
Enterprise Project.
There is actually I believe there is a project app. I haven't used it, to be honest, because Microsoft Project's a beast on its own. But there is an actual app. It's not rated super highly because I think Microsoft Project is so complex. Teams is a bit more simpler, but there is definitely a plugin for that and other things like roadmaps. And the truth is with all of these, if you've got access to them, I typically do a bit of a quick research on like what's most popular and what works, but I'll play around with a few of them. And I'll take you through some of my favorites in a minute.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Okay, so continue. Now, in a large project or program of work, like we had one last year that, as I said, was like 100 people, $30 million, you could effectively set up the project as a team site, and then obviously this is our default required like tools or I'll call them apps along the top. And then you can actually set up additional channels for each stream of your project. And in this example, I've used HR, finance, marketing, let's say, because it was a HRIS program. So what I mean by that, just in case I'm not clear, is I'll just show you a real example. So let's just say we're doing work with Coles, and so we've got different phases. So we've set up a channel per phase, and that's the phases we use in our business. That's why it's named that way. So you could have phases, or you could set up channels for what we did at the large government department last year, or government company last year, is we actually set up a testing channel, a PMO channel, a development channel. So that way, all the chatter that was going on at the top of the channel was too much for everyone. Like, I'm not a tester. I don't really need to know what's going on in testing. But if I want to know, or I want to talk just to the testers, if this channel, which is called immersion, was called testing, I could go in there and I could put some information directed at the testers. And I could do the same in development. I can do the same in governance. I can do the same with executive sponsors, etc. And with the channels, the good thing is you can restrict them so they're private. So if I wanted to add a channel now and I just click add channel, I can call it whatever I want. And I can actually say that I want it private. So if I've got an executive sponsor or steering committee group and I want to share steering committee packs, I can make it private. I can create that channel and I can put anything I want in that channel. At the top, again, I can put files. I can put a calendar. I can add people. I won't do that now. The only thing you can't do, and unless they've changed it, at the channel level, is you can't add tasks. So you can't add a planner for tasks. They don't allow that. All the task management has to happen at the general level, which is the top level. So I'll go back. So that's how we would set it up. This is an example structure. On the left-hand side is an organizational overview. I ran an EPMO a few years ago, and one of the ways I set it up was what the left-hand side. So we had a channel, a channel for each department. Channels for within every team. So every team might be marketing, sales, HR, audit, risk, etc. Then they had their own sub-channels. And within each channel, we had the conversations, files, and then we had a whiteboard tab at the time, and we have notes as well. Now, that's sort of the minimum things we had. Now we've evolved and added a few more things, but that's just an example on the left. And on the right-hand side, you can see another example, which I found, which is you can see that under general, it's everything to do with onboarding, role information, training. Then they've got an account section, then they've got a help section, and they've got a product section. So there's no right or wrong way with setting it up, but consistency is key. So applications. So as I mentioned before, and in case it's not clear, I'll just remind you, this is where you add apps. It's either through here, and the other option is clicking this little button down here. Now you can see if I click apps, there for us in our business, I can see everything as the owner. You might not see this, so I apologize if you don't, but you can search online on the Microsoft website. And if you find there's something that you really want, or a lot of people really want, you can obviously request it, depending on your business, your team. But you can have a look at all the different apps and what they're related to. And on the left-hand side, there's different categories. I think if I type in project, it'll give you everything related to projects. Now, some of these are really crappy, like this one, for example. Anyone can create an app and get the permission to integrate it to Microsoft. But you can actually find those that are Microsoft, built by Microsoft specifically, which are a bit more reliable, and you see their ratings are higher. So that's the way I would find stronger apps as well. Those that I go back to here, those that we use a lot. So you'll see lists. Now, lists, don't mistake lists with tasks. Lists are my project register, my risk register, my issues register, my demand pipeline register, my upcoming audit register, my in the smaller projects, my resource tracking register. A list can be as many columns, fields, drop downs, anything that you want. So it's completely customizable. It's just almost like Excel, but in an automated way. So using lists in SharePoint, which then we connected into Teams for access and visibility. And I'll give you an example of that. See if I can find one for us. I'm just going to go to our Build and Grow channel. So for example, product issues register. We created a list and we added all issues relating to products. And all of this is completely customizable. So you can see how we've changed the color. So we've made them stand out, formatting, you can add comments, you can add notes, statuses, you can pretty much add all of that, and you can export it to Excel any single time you want as well. So that's an example of lists, and you can do the same thing with forms as well. So if you want to have a new project request form, you can do that in Teams as well. The other one is approvals. So we've got an approval workflow that we've set up, and I'll quickly show you that. We'll see if it works. My IT person's not online, but let's have a look. So on our homepage, if I go back over here, we have down here, we've got a leave request form. Now we've used some Power Automate to automate this. So there's a couple of flows and things like that. But we've got a leave request form and approval request. So if I click approval requests, it should pop up and show you an example of how we've automated the approvals. It's a bit slow. Open. Okay, I'll do this one. Leave request form. So you can see it takes us back to SharePoint because everything is in SharePoint. So you can see this is a leave request form that we've set up. And what we've done is we've set it up so that it actually enables you to automate approvals as well. But that's a conversation for another day. And then a couple of ones, Planner. We always use Planner. That's basically task management. So always use that. SharePoint. I always use SharePoint. And what it enables you to do as well is you can see if I go back to, let's say this one, I think this one, and you go, let's say to files, when you click on files, it tells you, do you want to open it in SharePoint? And you can actually open it in SharePoint and it'll take you straight to the site. So that is that one. And then there's a couple others like the calendar. Clearly, we have, if I quickly show you calendar, we are all on the same page, because if I go back to our homepage, you will see we have, and also we've done, this one's got an automation on it, but again, that's probably another conversation. We've got all of our upcoming events, you know, all your public holidays. This calendar syncs with all of the department calendars as well. So marketing rolls up, sales rolls up, etc. So marketing can have their own independent calendar, and we've linked it to the master calendar, which I think is pretty cool. You could do that with projects as well. As I said, you might be locked down. I'm not sure. Okay, collaboration features. Again, if there's any questions, please put them in the chat. I'm more than happy to answer them. I assume there isn't questions. And of course, you'll have the recording of this in a week, so you should be able to watch it back if needed. So let's talk about collaboration. There's some obvious ones, but not everybody knows these things. So I've just put them here anyway. I won't go into this one. I think it's a bit obvious what you can do with virtual meetings. This one's something that most people don't know. You can actually use a lot of preset commands in Microsoft Teams by just putting the slash. A show of hands or a thumbs up or something. Who knew about that? The frequent commands slash. Emojis, okay. All right. I'm just going to quickly show you. So just up here, so you can actually click slash, and there you go. You'll have different ones depending on your business. But as I said, if I wanted to set my status to do not disturb, I can just click that and it's basically just set it. So there's lots of different options, and it's got a good search functionality as well. Do not disturb is obvious. Do not disturb, people get worried that if they put do not disturb that their manager can't reach them. That's not true. Do not disturb does restrict and mute notifications for the most part, but there is a couple of options when writing a chat message that you can flag as urgent, and there's one I think that's important. One of them flashes up like I think every 10 minutes or something like that, and then another one will actually sometimes bypass if it's if you select it, but obviously you're not going to select that unless it's extremely urgent. And if something is extremely urgent, you'll do what happened to me last year when I was running a steering committee meeting, and someone just kept texting and calling, texting, and then they said urgent, 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 so I had to step out and quickly answer that call. So do not disturb is not like it can't be reached.
Is it worth, sorry, Fatima, is it worth mentioning that SharePoint can notify people when you're in a meeting from calendar?
100%. Like now that I'm in a meeting presenting, it automatically puts it on do not disturb. So you don't have to do it manually, but otherwise you can set it when you want some focus time as well. A couple other things. So you can, there you go, there's the important and urgent. So your message will be marked as important, and the urgent will message you every 2 minutes for 20 minutes. So you're not going to miss an important message. Now, one of my absolute favorite things that most people don't know, and let's see if I'll test you all, that most people don't know. So let's go to posts, and let's just put a pretend post, blah, 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 blah. Let's see if this works now. Oh, I've got to type in a message. Okay. So something that a lot of people don't know is you can, like in email, if some of you do what I do and flag emails, so you can come back to them and not forget them. You can do that in Teams as well, right? So I'm just going to show you an example. So if you click on this little drop-down button over here, it gives you lots of options. And again, you'll have different options based on your company. But what you can do is, what I do is if I want to get back to something, it's 2 options. You can mark it as unread. So then when I come back to this channel, you can see the general down the bottom left is marked as bold. It lets me know, so I can come back and reread it. Option 2 is I can actually save this message. Well, I can pin it, which will mean everyone at the top of this, everyone that comes to this channel will know, hey, IT's got drinks next week or whatever they want to say. And I can actually save this message. Now, let me see if I can save it in here. Where is it? Maybe I'll go to another message because it might not let me because it's my message. So let me just try this one. Okay. my button is missing. Okay, my button is missing. Why is it not showing me? Okay, I'm going to just try to find it another way. No, not there. Okay. Pending invites unread. It's a bit weird. Maybe they've changed it. But basically, one of my favorite things to do is you can save messages and then you can go back and find them. So you can like flag things. I just need to find it, but for some reason it doesn't look like it's here anymore. Okay. Well, maybe I'll come back to that. If anyone's keen, I can follow that up. But that's literally one of my favorite things to do. And it usually is like literally a button that says save this message. So I'm not sure why that didn't come up. Okay. Moving on anyway, you can favorite Teams channels. So the favoriting Teams channels brings it to the top. So I'll show you what that looks like. Up here, they're pinned. I usually put the projects right at the top, the ones that are most important. And then you can also obviously tag, you can set up groups and then you can tag people based on the department or team they're in. But like you can have a project group or you can have a HR group or a sales group or whatever it might be. Again, depending on whether you have restricted on doing that, but I think it should be open to everyone. Now, this is one of the coolest things. If you don't co-author documents directly in Teams, even if you open it in a desktop app with your colleagues or whatever, you're missing out. If you're still emailing back and forth the document that you're sharing, that's really not as effective and also clogs up your mailbox. This one's self-explanatory, so I don't want to explain it unless you want me to show you. But I can tell you last year, we did work with an energy company, and there was probably about 15 people that on their side and about 3 or 4 people on my side. And we were building out a value management office function, and we were designing everything within a PowerPoint. We're designing it in PowerPoint and then moving it to Jira, wherever we needed to take it. But the information building, we collaboratively co-authored the document and we ended up at about 250 pages that of information, insights, processes, knowledge, presentations, steer code, like all of it in one. And we co-authored the whole document completely with no challenges between 20 people. So it can be done and it's awesome. So I recommend you do it. Any questions at this point that I haven't covered? I'm keeping an eye on the chat, but I'll keep going if there isn't. Okay, so tasks and projects. So I mentioned some of the best apps along the top. I also recommend Stream, which is your ability to record, screen share, record videos, and do asynchronous communications out to your teams. We use it as a how-to. So we'll record like, oh, this is how you, if someone says, oh, can you remind me how to set up a project risk? I'll quickly record a 30-second stream video, which is part of Teams SharePoint as an app. And I will and it saves all of them in there. So you can do that. Approvals, I've talked about workflows and Power Apps. Power Apps is the ability to automate and set up like flows and workflows and whatnot. But again, that's probably like that's something that we usually do after we've done the base piece. But so I won't go into any of this. This one's pretty self-explanatory. It's just more about etiquette. One of the most important things, I think, is if you're going to assign someone a task, make sure that they know that you've assigned them. Don't just randomly assign them tasks, because then they've got no reference to what it's for. And it's also not good courtesy to just throw something over the fence to them. So it's either done in a meeting. We do all of our task changes and exchanges in like our stand-ups. And then we'll also have like quarterly or monthly planning sessions. Marketing does their own planning, sales does their own planning, et cetera, et cetera. And also the best thing about, one of the best things about Teams, if I just go to, I'm going to open Plan. This is basically the Microsoft planners, the tasks planners, but in a visual that enables me to see what's assigned to me and all of the planners. And you can see from this list over here, we have dozens of them, but I know where everything's up to it at all times and what's going on with them. But if I just give you a quick example, let me just see if I can find one. Let's see if there's one here. Okay, so let's just say this task. You can see information, and the best thing about it is rather than sending an email with the file, you can actually link to a URL by pasting it in here, or directly access a team file from your Teams file, or you can upload from your computer. So when someone opens this task, they'll actually be able to know exactly what you want them to work on. So I think that's really, really handy. Okay. So the planner tool itself, why do we use it? Obviously, it's the best way to task manage. The one downfall of Microsoft Teams planners is you do not get a portfolio view. So that's the main gap for me if I was thinking about like fancy PPM tools. And this is by no means a replacement for those. They're far more comprehensive and complex for other things. But if I wanted to think about all of my planners, as I was just showing you, actually go back to here. There's a lot. You can see by just opening up this view, I can see how many are not started, how many are complete, where the stats are, etc., by project, by internal, all of these sorts of things. But what I can't see is I can't roll up as a manager of a business and see that portfolio view. That's a gap for me in Microsoft Teams. There is some apps and things, I've tried them, they don't really work. So there's other ways of getting that information that is a bit more manual. In the planner, there's so many ways you can set it up. This has worked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 options for us in every project we've worked in with our customers. And I don't know if this is set up, but let me have a quick look. No, not on this one. Let me find this one. It's really the simplest and easiest. So recurring, Teams allows you to put a recurring flag, and they're really effective. So you can put a recurring and a custom weekly, monthly, fortnightly, whatever you want. You can set that up by just opening it up and changing the repeat. The to-do is what I say to my team is basically things that have been approved to be done, sort of like your backlog. Doing sounds self-explanatory because there is an in progress, but doing just means someone's working on it. We typically don't put someone assigned until it's in doing, because otherwise you'll assign people to all the things in the backlog, but who knows if they're still going to be able to do them once they finish their other tasks. And then there's done, and then the parking lot. The parking lot is, and we've added a new one just recently, but the parking lot is something's blocked, and you'll put a note in there why it's blocked. And so basically that enables you to know that there's something outstanding with it. And then the recommended for closure is where you know that you need to close that task, but you don't feel you've not got to the stand up yet to actually go through that process with the team and say, okay, team, I recommend we close these. I've done the task. That way people aren't surprised if they're on a project and they don't know that you've actually closed a task. So that's what that one enables you to do. Setting up the planner tool itself, there's lots of different ways you can do it. And I mean, this is just one example of many different examples, but we basically use a tag system and tag it if it's extra small, small, medium, large, and extra large. And we do that to enable us to allocate work based on people's capacity. It's a very arbitrary way of doing it because there isn't like a capacity management feature. And then on the middle, we've got the 4 types of priorities. So the urgent, the must have, should have, and could have. And those who are in the Agile world will know that must have, should have, and could have relates to Moscow, a model that's used in Agile. But we just use some of the principles of it. And we also use color coding. Color coding enables us to have a visual aid and also use the task management process in the most effective way. I'll see if I can show you a quick example. Just quickly have a quick look. Let's see if I've got it set up. So you can see over here we've got AMO way, that's like flagged as a task. As a tag. So if you wanted to add a tag, you basically can go in, and we've set up a few of them over here. So you can do that. And then also you can use the same tags to actually put a extra small, small, medium, large, etc. There's, I think, 20 tags maximum that you can use. We've used basically all of them now. And the challenge is if you change your mind on what a tag is, it can confuse things. So just think about them and set them up front. In the progression of a task in your planner, when you open up a task, there are so many components, all of these components, the 12 components I call them, inside a task. Everything from the title. One of the hints on title, you can see it in here, we've put something that defines it within the brackets so we know what it relates to, in this case, reporting. We've also listed out, who the task's assigned to. You can see the tag less than 2 hours, extra small, and tag delivery. And then you've got all of the standard progress and dates and whatnot. Notes relating to the task, and then all of the subtasks in the checklist. In the checklist section, I think you can add up to, I think it's 10 or 15. And so you can see we've not only put those tasks, but in brackets, we've put the person's initials. So if there's 4 people assigned to this, we know that there is assigned to specific parts within it. And then you can see there's a link directly to the file that I want them to co-author, as I mentioned before. So that's basically how we would use the Microsoft Teams planner. Any questions at this point? Okay, I'm still keeping an eye on the chat, so feel free to raise. Okay, this one's a bit of a neat, thank you for the thumbs up. This is a little bit of a neat hack that I use. So I do a lot of work with companies in helping them either uplift their project management offices or to set up a project management office. And usually in that starting phase, there is a lot of stuff we need to reset, refine, or define that we don't want everyone to be accessing, because there's nothing worse than you trying to create process documents or tools, and then you've got project managers downloading them and using them, and they're not even ready. So we set up a restricted access folder for process development, and we make that restricted to only those who are involved in the development of the process or the approvals. And then we also have the PMO folder, where it is basically our sandpit for us to test some of these processes with, a few selected PMs or stakeholders. And then once we've got the approval on the process or a framework or a tool, we then transfer that into our public knowledge center, and that is open to everyone in the company. So that's just a little bit of a way that I would structure things in a PMO or a portfolio that have found quite nifty and quite handy. So hopefully you find that useful. Okay, and it's our last section for today. It's enhancing communication and engagement. Now, some of these tips and tricks might be things that you know, but as I mentioned before, there's a lot of things that people don't realize exist and don't know. So I'm just going to quickly just show you a few. I'm only going to mention a bit more detail on one of these ones because I think it's probably mostly underutilized, the praise option. There is, with the remote working and teams being, dispersed, it's sometimes really helpful to give feedback to people. And sometimes doing it in the Teams channel just gives that little bit of positivity to the project or the program or the team you're working in. So in case you're not aware of how to do that, I'm just going to go and give you an example. So you click Start a Post. Let me just find, and there is a button. It's called plus button. It's called Praise. And you can send praise to anyone in your team site. And you can pick from a few categories, as you can see from up there. So I might just say kind heart. Thanks for joining today. Right. And I might just tag someone. I'm sorry, no, I'm going to tag them up here. I'll just put myself for now. If it lets me, might not let me. Okay. So you just put the name in there. We don't have anyone listed in here, but you'll usually have a drop down of anyone in that team channel. And then once you put the comment, you can change the colors, you can choose what you want to put in, and then you send it. And what will happen is it will pop up here, and they will get notified that you've sent them praise. And anyone coming into that team will be able to visually see that as well. So it's a really nice thing to do, and I like to do it often. So I recommend you use that if you haven't already. Dynamic messaging, as I said, unless it's been turned off, it's there. There's so many options. Just quickly going back to a few other things. If you click on this button, I mentioned Stream. So Stream comes up for us. You can actually paste the link to a video that you've recorded on Stream, and then people in that channel can access it. And then there's a lot of other ways of using this. The best thing about a post, as opposed to just a generic chat, is you can put a subject title and ask people to contribute to the message as well. There is something else that you can. I'm just going to see if it's here. No, it's not here. yeah, other than posts, you can do announcements. They're a little bit different. They're a bit more, hey, pay attention. We want to share something with you and so forth. But again, using this chat really effectively. And if you, like me, you can pin the chat, you can mark it as unread. And for some reason, save is not here, but you can actually save it as well. The other good thing you can do if you've got it set up, you can actually create a task by clicking this button. So let's say Jenny asked me to do something. I can actually automatically type in what the task is just from the chat, and then decide what planet it relates to, put the status, and there's a link directly to this chat up here that the task came from. That's really handy for you to put tasks into your planner automatically, which you can't really do if you're just using email. Polls are really great. If you've got, this is the forms plugin, and there's other poll options like this one over here is called Polly. They're apps that you choose to add, and they enable you to actually run surveys and other things like that. So you can set that up. And I've already talked about pinning channels. Notifications, I'll quickly show you. If I go to the right-hand side and I go to Manage Team, and I go to Settings, this is where all the changes of names and all that sort of stuff. Just see if it gives you. I'm going to go back. Actually, we go back. We do it on the channel. There we go. So right, it's on the channel, not on the team. So I click Channel Notifications, and then it says, what do I want to do in terms of I want to be notified every time there's a post in this channel. Obviously, if that's your team and your department, you might want to always be notified. If not, and I don't really need to be involved in every message, I can keep it off and go in and see things when I want. Otherwise, I can put it on and actually say, yes, let me know whenever I'm mentioned, because that means someone needs me to do something. So basically, that's how you would change the notification settings as well. Up here is really handy, the set status message. Usually when I'm working from a client site or running a workshop or whatever it might be, I actually put my message in here. I click show people the message, or when I'm out of office, and then when they email me or send me a message in Teams, they'll automatically see that. So they'll know I'm away. So they don't think I'm ignoring them. Okay, we're almost now at the end of the session. I'm just going to quickly show you, for those interested, there is a one more thing I'll quickly show you. So on our homepage, which we've set up in SharePoint but linked to Teams, you can see we've set up all of our functions and departments, and then we've got our not-for-profit and tools and things. We've got news dynamic view set up, task planners, and all of the different functions as well. And if I just go into, for example, our Build and Grow, which relates to product development, in that team site, we've got access to the intranet again, products, roadmaps, checklists, playbooks, templates, FAQs, pretty much everything. We've got our decision register over here, which again is a list function that you can see set up. We've got our calendars set up. So there's quite a lot of different things, and you can also see just in terms of activity and whatnot. Now, one more thing in Teams before I show you. So over here, you can actually look at analytics. Now, why is analytics important? Because just as an example, it can show you for every, let's say these were your projects or your departments, it actually can tell you the number of active users on them at any time, how many posts, how often they're used. So channels that are used more often, that they're more valuable. So that's one thing that you can actually look at as well. Otherwise, I have created a very, very detailed ebook, which I'll quickly show you, and that is goes into quite a lot of detail and has a lot of screenshots and things that goes through. It's about 65 pages and covers some of what we covered today and some other stuff as well. So if you're interested in that, I will just go back to, and I will share the link in the chat for that. Otherwise, it's time for questions. Also, please, if you do have feedback, either the survey that Meetup asks you to do, otherwise there's a survey link there. You don't have to do both, but I'd really appreciate it. And here's a link to the ebook if you're interested. But now I'd like to open up the last 10 minutes for questions. Does anyone have any questions? If you're too shy to speak up, I'm happy for you to put it into the chat. But yeah, I'd love for you to share. If you don't have a question, was there something that really resonated with you, something new that you learned today that maybe you didn't know? Just anything that you think would be valuable for others. Very quiet group today. Okay, well, whilst having a think through. Okay, perfect. There was some quick. No, so there is a lot of what I've showed you today. Almost everything I showed you today is free. There is apps you can purchase that are available that are plugins and things like that, especially the more complex apps. But almost everything I showed you today is free. Not free to the company. Obviously, your company would have a license for these things. But yes, generally speaking, everything I showed you is pretty much mostly for free. No worries, Omar. Thank you. Any other questions? This is your chance to get it out. As I said before, there will be a video with this coming out within the week, within a week. Also, we've got another meetup coming up in October that you can register for, the PMO Trends 2025. So that's coming up for the next one. And as I said, the link above if you're interested in that ebook. Marie, at a workplace, would they give me in-place training on MS Teams? To be honest, I don't know. It really depends on your workplace. As I mentioned before, every single company I've worked in, not one of them's done MS training. Because one, there's an assumption that people know it because they think it's super simple, and it is quite simple. And so no, and that's why, like as I mentioned, we've done training with some companies to just take them through these sorts of things. So I'm not sure, you might have to ask, but I don't find it as a recurring thing. Online workshopping, yes, there's a lot of detail around workshopping in that ebook, Andrew, but a couple of common ones that are used more often is Miro and Mural. Miro and Mural are not free. There is a free version, I think. They are both available in the App Store, and then there's Microsoft Whiteboard for workshopping as well. But there's a lot more detail on that in that ebook as well. So if you want to have a look there. Good question though. Elena, thank you so much. I appreciate that because that helps me to know to keep doing these. Otherwise, I won't do them without feedback. The use of Teams depends on what company does. Yeah, it does. Every single company that I have seen has used Teams extremely differently, but one common theme is they are so underutilizing it, and I'm just scratching the surface. As I said, I've been able to, today we've gone through like 15, 20 slides. In terms of how much content there is around Teams, the ebook's like 65 pages. So there's so much out there to know that I think people don't realize that's available free and whatnot. You might have some people in the company that are really strong super users, but typically I find people really underutilize it, particularly when they've got other tools like, their mail Outlook and, PPMs and things. But it's so amazing what we can do with it. As I said, we've used it in multi-million-dollar projects and programs, and all of AMO's projects have been running using Microsoft Teams and SharePoint for the last 8 years. We don't have a PPM, and we've worked with really big companies as well. Let's see, another message. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Sunny. I appreciate that. Of course, you can connect with me on LinkedIn, and you can find out more about the future meetups there. As I said, there is a really quick survey or a link to the ebook. I'll just repost that and I'll answer, Maria, your question. I'm assuming if I'm assigned a project, they might just say set it up under MS Teams and expect me to do it. Look, yes and no. So if your company has a PPM, they'll probably just assume you're going to use that. If you've got the ability to set up a team site for your project, like if you're a project manager running a specific project or a couple of projects, then yeah, I would recommend setting it up and setting up a template that you might want to use recurring so that it's easy to just lift and shift the project. if you're in a project management office or a portfolio role, or maybe you're a business owner like me, then I might actually suggest that people need to set up a team site. In the bigger corporate companies, they have IT set the team sites up. But as I said, one of the banks lets anyone set up a team site however they want. The challenge is if creativity in the team site is great. I mentioned at the beginning, uncontrolled team sites, thousands of them, to really restricted. You want something in between the middle. If the company has sort of standards and processes around projects, then I would recommend that you have a little bit of a standard and process around setting up team sites for projects. But that's just me, as opposed to just making it a free for all. Otherwise, what will happen, and this bank, for example, they've got random team sites created with random names. They're just taking up space and just sitting there doing, some of them doing nothing. When people leave, if they don't close them, no one's going to go in there and go, out of these 10,000 team sites, are they still relevant or needed? And the problem is they do come up in search unless you archive them. And if I'm an IT person and I've got 10,000 team sites, I'm not going to know whether to archive something or not, because this just gets out of control. So there you have it. Lots of information. Thank you so much for your time. If you registered, obviously through the Zoom link, I'll have your email. I can send you the video within the week. If you want to connect with me about anything, join me on LinkedIn. Otherwise, thank you all for your time, and I hope you have a great rest of the day or night wherever you are.